welcome. My name is Lexi Jong, and here I like to talk about luxury makeup. Today we're going to be doing a comparison of the Tom Ford Virgin Orchid quad with the new DIOR Blooming Bouquet quint for the spring. And this is a new quad to me. So, I have an eye look that I'm going to share with you as well before we do some comparisons. So let me go ahead and share the eye look with you. Then we'll do some swatches and I'll see. We're going into Tom Ford Virgin Orchid with the Givenchy Classic Crease. And I'm going to start off in this shade here. I have the Tom Ford eye primer on. And I'm just going to kind of buff this in a broad crease area. Next, I'm taking the Givenchy Mini Booster into the deepest shade, and I'm going to add this to the crease. And I'm just using a tiny bit of the shade because I just want a little bit more depth there, but I don't want it to look too dark. Right, so just evening at these two sides. It's a little darker on my left. Going back with the Givenchy Classic Crease and just making sure those are blended smoothly. Taking the Givenchy Soft Shader into this pink. And I'm covering 3/4 of the mobile lid here from the inside. All right, so that's one layer. I'm just gonna make that a little bit deeper. Wiping off the brush, I'm going back into this shade that I started with. And I'm putting this on the outer portion. And I'm just gonna kind of blend that into the pink. So just little feathery motions. Taking the Givenchy pencil one into the white. Adding this to the inner corner here. And 1/4 of the lower lash line. And then I'm going to use my finger in the white and just do a little tiny bit. You can see that there's some gold radiance here. I'm just going to add this to the center, just very lightly. Going into this grayish shade for the lower lash line using the pencil one. And now I'm going into the deepest shade with the pencil one for the upper lash line and just twirl the brush in it and keeping it close to the lashes. Wiped off the brush and just kind of smudging that gently. So this is my final eye look with Virgin Orchid, and I will see you in a second. And this is the final look from a distance. And let's go ahead and get started with some swatch comparisons. So this here is the Virgin Orchid quad, and this is in the Tom Ford Wet Dry formula that I love. So these are the 4 shades. And you can see here that this white, when it actually hits the light, there's a gold tint. You could actually use this as a highlighter on your face even. It reminds me a lot of the pearly gold one in the Guerlain Meteorites Pearl Dust palette. So we'll swatch that in a minute. And then you've got this pink shade here. And again, you've got a little tiny bit of gold reflect in there. We'll look at that with the Tom Ford First Frost quad. And then we have this really soft kind of taupey gray shade. You can see it's very light. It's got a really nice satin sheen. And then finally, our last shade here is brown with some plum tones to it, but it is going to be a brown. So let's start off with the Guerlain Meteorites Pearl Dust. So this is what the white shade looks like there. You can see that there's definitely gonna be more gold. It's more metallic looking, but they do have a similar vibe to it if you went in super lightly with the Guerlain Meteorites. And then this is the Tom Ford First Frost. Let's put that here. I'm going to swatch the two pinks side by side. So this is Virgin Orchid. And you can see that the Virgin Orchid is going to be a little bit warmer. And when you have it next to the first frost quad, you don't see as much of the gold tone, but they are fairly similar, very close. Again, first frost is going to have a little bit more of that gold reflect. It's almost like a subtle duochrome compared to Virgin Orchid. Also in first frost, we're going to look at the white shade here. So I'm going to put that one up top. And that's almost a cross between these two. So the one in Virgin Orchid is definitely going to be the coolest with the least amount of gold reflect. Now let's take a look at DIOR Blooming Bouquet. This is number 639. It's a limited edition quint for spring 2021. And as far as I know, it is only available on the DIOR website. You can see how light and soft these shades are compared to the Virgin Orchid, which is here. You can also see that the undertones in Blooming Bouquet are going to run cooler. Just looking at the pinks, you can see here that our pinks, this is a cooler tone pink. You don't really have the gold reflect. It's definitely not going to be as peachy in tone, and it's much softer and more subtle. The white shade is more similar, but actually the one in Tom Ford is got a little bit more gold in it, whereas the one in Blooming Bouquet is more of like an iridescent white. And then we have this beautiful soft lavender color, which is nowhere in there. And then this soft taupey shade, again, is gonna be a lot lighter, but you can see that this one actually has more beige tones. Let me make that a little deeper. So here's this compared to the Tom Ford. You can see that you've got more beige tones here in DIOR compared to the Tom Ford. I'll put those together. So just a swatch of the DIOR right here. And you can see the difference here. The Tom Ford is going to be cooler in tone than the DIOR. And then last up, Blooming Bouquet. I'll put these side by side as well. This is the Tom Ford. And you can see that there's more of a chocolate brown tone to the Tom Ford compared to the Blooming Bouquet, which has more of an aubergine purple tone to it. So overall, my thoughts on the Tom Ford Virgin Orchid quad. I think it's a very nice quad. I like the colors in it. They are a bit warmer tone on the eyes than I thought when I initially purchased it. And I mean, I like it. It's soft, it's subtle. If I had to pick between this one and the Blooming Bouquet, I personally prefer the Blooming Bouquet a little bit more because the tones are a little bit cooler. And yeah, I just really like that. The Tom Ford has the formula I like, wet and dry. I've only done this one eye look so far, so I do enjoy it and I can't wait to play with it more, but it's not as similar to Blooming Bouquet as I was kind of thinking that it would be. I personally really like the kind of like frosty shimmery look that you get with the Tom Ford wet dry formula, and the DIOR obviously has a different finish. Those are more satin, matte satins, and so forth. So it's going to be a completely different vibe overall. And that sums up my thoughts on these two palettes. So I hope this was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. If you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I hope to see you next time. Have a great day. Stay safe and healthy.